9th, 2018, and we're sitting here with Chad Few. And so, Chad, do you think you could just sort of tell me and tell the people, or the camera, kind of about your time in church, like how you started, how you grew up here at the church, kind of, and some of your memories.
Yeah, I'm sure I can. First off, my name is Chad Few, and I have been here my whole life. This is my home church, and I've always felt it as my home church. I am the son of Connie and Carl Few, and my grandparents were Florence Tritt and Roy Tritt, and any of y'all in the 8:30 service will probably know who they are, because my grandma Florence was known well by everybody. She was designated the DH. She was called a designated hugger in the church, because she hugged everybody, no matter if you were new or if you were not. She always hugged everybody. But see, I had the privilege of having her in my family. I started out, I was born in '87, and I was baptized here when I was a baby, and so I have all my confirmation papers and all that here. I was able to have the chance to grow up under Bill McDermott and Grady Lee and all these wonderful people who have actually helped me make it through my life. It's helped me out get a strong foundation from where I was at. I mean, I started out here as a kid, when I grew up, I stayed here because my grandma kept me in church. Because even though my mom was kind of here and over there, but my mom she started coming to church a lot more. I've had the privilege of being here through 4 different youth pastors. Believe it or not, the first one was Rassy, Mr. Alan Rassy, and he was quite well. He was really good and did a lot of stuff with us. And the next was Miss Strawbridge, and she was Miss Lori Strawbridge. She was really good too. And I had a good time. But at a certain point, I think I was either 14 or 15, I kind of strayed away from this church. I kind of got away because I guess I was trying to find myself, trying to figure out what I could do, to better myself. And I decided to go to a church just down the street, Westwood Christian Church. But I decided I was going to check something outside and have a different point from view. I mean, and it was okay. It was an okay church. I didn't mind it a lot. And but I do remember at the age of 7 is when I first was saved. I got saved at Sports Center, which was Pensacola Christian Academy. I was saved there, and I remember it quite well because I remember all the sermons and stuff we used to have to sit through. And I was fine with it. Then I came back. I went to Westwood Christian there for a while, and I was rebaptized again at 16 when I actually knew what kind of was going on. Now, after that, I strayed away from the church again because I guess it just didn't feel like I was there. I didn't feel like that God wanted me there. I decided I wanted to get something better, so I actually stayed out of church for quite a few years, and I was just finding my way in life. And I found that stuff wasn't happening. It was not happening. I was not feeling good. I was not doing what I needed to do. Stuff did not get done. I felt that I was in turmoil all the time. And then at some point, and I believe it was my 10th grade year, I had a huge experience which allowed me to see the other side, the spiritual side of life. And I was kind of comforted because I was able to talk to angels and I did see demons. I've seen both. So I do know they exist and they are here. And at that point in time, I believe I turned my life around. And I came back to this church shortly after. And when I got back, Derek was the newest youth pastor who just started. And then, of course, Patrick. He was the last one. And while I was here, I spent a lot of time with the older folks of the church. I stayed in the 8:30 service. I was here, believe it or not, when the 8:30 service was actually 11 o'clock service. And I was actually here at a point in time where I went through a couple choir directors. I started out in the young choir, I guess it's the Rainbow Choir at the time. I'm not sure, maybe the Cherub or the Rainbow, one of the two. And it was the one here in the church, and I learned from there. And then I ended up going into the youth. I ended up going into the youth choir, and then I also went on choir tour with Mrs. Pam Nelson. She took us on the choir tour, so I went and did that. And then shortly after all this stuff has happened later on that I've mentioned, has already happened, when I came back, Patrick gave me the chance to get on stage and sing. after spending time with the youth, I had became part of staff at the youth, helping out with keeping the youth in check, because I was part of the, I guess, the older group of youth, you could say. We grew up with huge youth groups. I mean, huge. The youth groups. And I remember I was talking I was in Bill Raleigh at one point in time was our class. We went to class on Wednesday nights, and he had us. We would talk to him. He was our teacher, and then a couple of other people were teachers shortly after. Mr. Lee was probably one of them, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. It's just been a huge, after that experience that I had, it's just been a huge experience, and it's changed my entire outlook on life. And I decided to come back to this church because I felt I was being pulled back here, because it has been my home church from the very beginning. And I was always like, well, man, I just want to go back. And as soon as I got back here, the people, every one of them knew me still. Like, they knew me as Florence Tritt's grandson. Oh, you're Florence Tritt's grandson. Oh, you're DH. Do you hug too? I was like, yeah. My grandma hugged everybody. She loved everybody. I wish many of y'all would have gotten to know her. For the newer members of the 8:30 service that don't really know who she was, just ask the older people that were there. They'll tell you who she is. She was great. She was a beautiful woman. She knew exactly what to do. She loved everybody. And I mean, she's no longer with us. I mean, there's my granddad, but that also came back into mind as I was coming back to the church. And if it wasn't for Patrick getting me involved with youth, and I was chaperones for Meltdown, I did that for some years, and if it wasn't for Patrick having me here and getting me on stage and allowing me the chance to be able to sing, because my grandma was always a great singer. My grandma and granddad loved to sing. They were great. And I happened to inherit a little bit of it, I guess you could say. And Patrick seen that in me, and he gave me a chance. And that kept me on stage. And as soon as I got to stage, that kept me in this church from that point on. I didn't feel that I needed to go anywhere else, because I knew that here's where I want to be. So much so as to where I don't really want to get a job out state. I want to get a job in the state so I can continue coming to church and continue trying to do stuff. I'm not really a huge public speaker. I don't talk to a whole lot of people, but I'm here to tell you, if you come to talk to me, I will talk to you. It's not. I'm just not one to start conversations. I just don't. That's just me. But after I spent that time in the youth group and getting to know all the younger youth and watching the Isaacs group grow up, I watched Ryan's group, I watched all the groups grow up. And I just remember back to the times where I was in youth with Ken and Luke and Josh and all these great people now, that we're all grown now. Some are still here in the church, and a lot of them have left. One of my first pastors that I really, really remember the most is Bruce Sheffield. He was really, really good, and he was my grandma's favorite pastor. Of course, she didn't get to know Pastor Riley and the new group, but we were here, and I just felt that here's where I needed to stay. And I've been here ever since. I've been on stage, and that's how I'm choosing to serve God, is to sing for Him, because I'm meant to join in with everybody. Because it to me, it's fulfilling to me to be able to do that and be able to have the talent to do that God's given me. So I spent a lot of time here and reminiscing about everything, and I found out that as I got I got into these groups, I used to be part of. A lot of these groups I used to be a part of, but I've actually kind of strayed away a little bit. I've kind of been in some difficulties, kind of trying to figure, things out. But I've always led and always told to come back to this church. This has always been the church for me. I grew up here, my family had been here, and I kind of regret the years that I left here, honestly, because it didn't feel like home. And to me, church is supposed to feel like a home and to be so welcoming to where, and that it's just like, wow, I want to be here, And I mean, I guess it didn't hurt that everybody knew me, But I had a wonderful time. I used to get me and Ken, all of us used to get in a little mischief when we were youth. That's a given, but we were youth. We were all, had our ways. I mean, believe it or not, we used to be corrected a lot by the church, because when I was also here, we also had night services. We'd have day service, and then we'd do choir practice, and then we had night services. And sometimes we'd be the choir at night. And I remember those good days. I had a good time doing that, and that's when Miss Julie Bender Miss Bender, she was the one who was actually leading the choir when I came back to youth choir, before I started to lead to begin with. And I've just always wanted to come back here. I never really wanted to go anywhere else. And I've always been led back here, and God's kept me here for, I guess, a reason. I don't know where He'll take me later in life, but right now I'm dealing with trying to go back to college and trying to finish that up, and that's about what I'm trying to do. So that's basically how I ended up being in this church and then staying here. I grew up here, so.
Well, covered a lot of it, really. Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, was there any story in addition or any other thing you could think of that you wanted to share?
I guess, I don't know. There's been quite a few things that I do remember at some point in time and I can't remember exactly what years, but I do remember at some point in time we used to do these things called River of Life, and we used to go around and we used to help people clean up their houses, like the church people clean their houses up, which is kind of what you kind of do today. We did the same thing, and we had a great time. River of Life was wonderful. We had spent a lot of time doing that. Every year, every summer, we always had stuff to do every summer, and just like the youth do now. The youth these days they're luckier than I was at the time. We didn't have the money to go to all this other stuff they had to do now, and we didn't know about these programs truly back in the day, and they probably didn't start, or we just didn't know about them until later on. But I'm 30 now, and I've been here for a while now. I've actually been here for the past 10 years now. I've been back for about 10, and I have I've just loved it here, and I just don't ever really want to. I don't really feel like I should be. I'm not, as of this point, I'm not led to go anywhere else. And I'm actually quite happy that I'm able to, see how everybody is growing up, and how the growing up, and how Patrick's transforming and stuff. He's doing great. He's changing just like and I can see it. And I've seen a lot of people change because of this church, and I don't know what it is, but this church they call it usually it's called the house of prayer, and this church really prays a lot for a lot of people, and a lot of prayers get answered through this church, and I just want to thank them for praying for all of us and stuff like that, because I know that they do what God intends them to do, and I guess that's pretty much it about that.